Support the Athletics Can't Wait Jets podcast, your nonstop shop for all things Jets. Now here are your hosts, Tim McMaster and Connor Hughes. Listen safely.
Can't wait.
Good morning, Jets fans. We are getting an early start Tuesday, October 19th. This is the Can't Wait podcast. Hope you're recharged after the bye week and ready to go. Tim McMaster here along with Connor Hughes and Marissa Morris. Thanks for checking us out, whether you're watching us live on YouTube or listening later on Apple or Spotify. Leave us a review, a thumbs up, whatever you can if you can. That always helps us out as we continue to try to grow this podcast. Lots to get to. We're going to do Mailbag today because that's our bye-week tradition on this podcast. Robert Saleh also spoke on Monday coming out of the bye week. We'll react to that. But first, it was a big weekend for our producer, Marissa Morris, who Bachelorette Party, and not just a Bachelorette Party. I give her credit. And the reason we can talk about this on a football podcast is because it was a football-themed Bachelorette Party. The final game before she takes his name. That was the motto, right, Marissa?
Yeah. My sister did an incredible job planning a whole football themed. I mean, like, I never want to miss any of Michael's games. So, you know, I said when we were trying to plan something like, hey, why doesn't all my cousins come to Cleveland for a game? Like, that'll be so fun.
Sure, they love that.
half of them don't even know.
Top 10 Bachelorette Party destinations.
Yeah.
Cleveland's not there.
We had such a good time, though.
Extend it to 100.
Half of them don't know what's going on in the game. But, you know, we had all the Gatorade bottles and we had the shirts that said like Team Bride, and it was very cute. My sister did such a good job, and you know, I did plan it also, or being the producer that I am, plan it around the Jets bye week. The Eagles played on Thursday and the Bills did not play till Monday night, so it was a great weekend. I'm still tired but doing good. Ready for week 7.
So that's good. And you were here before Connor, well, as usual.
Yes.
But
and I recorded all the ads ahead of time, so doing good.
That's not surprising.
All right. The countdown is on how many days now to the big day?
Well, the sign on Sunday said 132, so I guess 130, 130. I know there's a lot of stuff for me to do, but
there's going to be more games before that.
Obviously, but like, you know, it was like the first
sign was a lie.
Connor.
Oh my God, that's not the final game. You got like 4 more games before you take the big name.
I know, but like before they come, and it rhymed so cute, so it was like, you know,
right,
a thing.
For a second, because I was trying to do that math. In my head.
You
I was
look
like, I'm
so
fairly
confused.
certain you're getting married like around the combine
After the season, yeah.
I was very confused by that one. That one, you threw me for a loop. It's too early for that. A little too early for that.
Math.
Can't be pulling fast ones. I'm about to go to Bree and be like, Marissa's wedding's right on the corner. What are we doing?
Classic.
All right. So to the Jets, or do you want to complain, Connor, about our picks?
I'll complain when we later in the show. I'll complain for the second episode, and then before we do end this show though, because I'm not gonna. We'll get all the Jets talk in first, and then I'll do the whole like disclaimer of like we need to get a sound effect or something like that. It's like we're about to not talk about the Jets. Like get that little like sound bite or whatever. When we get our new logo finalized in the gear, we're gonna open it up with doing that. But I should tell you guys how I got viciously attacked by a swarm of hornets on the golf course on Wednesday or earlier this week. So I got to give you guys that lowdown on how that happened, because that was not pleasant or enjoyable. And oh boy,
I might have to.
I got attacked by a swarm of hornets. That was fun.
I might have to reach out to the golf course and see if we can obtain some security video of that. I think the listeners would greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, only me. It was bad.
All right, before we get to the latest golf shenanigans with Connor, let's talk about the Jets. And let's first start with the press conference on Monday. Robert Saleh coming out of the bye week. Obviously, Connor, most of the questions revolved around, hey, what did you guys do to fix things during the bye week? What did you think of the answers he gave?
Oh, they were a little boring, but I mean, that's kind of his thing, right? Is that Saleh's not exactly an open book. And he's, you know, Adam Gase was and I think Robert Saleh is quietly molding into a combination of somebody who is more likable than Adam Gase, obviously by the fan base, but tells you about as much as Todd Bowles does. So he just kind of where Todd would very easily 3 letters be like yes or 2 letters say no. I mean, that was kind of like the Todd Bowles thing. And he just, he didn't see how the media or talking to the media was ever going to really benefit him in doing his job. So starting in like 2016, 2017, he was like, I'm just not, these press conferences are going to be 3 to 5 minutes. I'm going to not say anything. And then I'm going to go back to coaching the football team because I don't see how this is going to benefit me in any way. And then with Adam was much more of an open book. Like, although fans kind of got the perception that he was like this disgruntled asshole, like that wasn't the case at all. I mean, he was, there was a member of the media who obviously is, well known now, like just, they basically fought every single day for every single camp, which ruined a lot of the press conferences for the rest of us, because the day that person wasn't there, Adam was a completely different person. It was, the stress was gone, the tension was gone, and he would just kind of talk to you. And he was open. He was honest. He would explain to you what he was doing, what they weren't doing, what they were going to try to do this week. Robert is kind of like that melding of, he's not going to tell you what he's doing, but he's going to be nice in telling you that he's not going to tell you what he's doing. So obviously the big talking point this entire week, and what this big talking point is going to be for until the Jets get it fixed, is the offense in the first half, is the fact that the Jets are an atrocious first half football team. We're not talking about a team that can't score on their first possession, which is usually what you hear when people talk about, an offense that's struggling to start games. It's that they're not scoring on their first drive. The Jets are not scoring on their first drive. They're not scoring in the first half, period. I mean, what is it? It's now 13 points, 1 touchdown, 0 first quarter points. I think they picked up 1 first down on their first drive of games. Not points, not field goals, not 1 touchdown, 1 first down on their first drive of football games. And that struggle and that issues that they are having to start games, and the issues out of the gate are leading to these defensive breakdowns, because you basically have a unit on the other side of the ball now that come the fourth quarter has basically played 5 and 6 quarters of snaps. So when the offense finally gets their shit together, and the offense finally figures things out, and the offense finally gets this team back into the game, but now they need a defensive stop because they basically spotted the other team a half of action without doing anything. The defense is so beaten down and so exhausted from having to exert all of that effort through so many snaps to start games that they can't make a stop when the Jets need it. And they need to figure out why they're going 3 and out. They need to figure out why they're not scoring points. And Saleh said that they have made changes. They have made adjustments. They're subtle, is the way that he described it, was his word. He said that we are not, as the media, going to be able to tell any difference, but they went down, they looked at things, they looked at ways they can spark this team, and they're going to do it this week. And hopefully, they hope that it pays some big dividends in New England when they travel up to Foxborough, and we'll see. As far as like everything else, I mean, he said the entire offensive staff went through to see what Zach Wilson does well, what he doesn't do well. They're going to keep hammering home what he does well and what he doesn't do well. They believe, what Saleh said is that they are, or I think he kept saying the word sounded or something like that, or along those lines. It was a weird word choice where I was like, I don't really understand that one. But basically, paraphrasing him, is that he thinks that he's found the fix, and he believes that the Jets have fixed their first half struggles, and they're coming out of the bye. They're going to start much quicker against the Patriots, and we'll see if that's the case. If not, I mean, I don't know what else you can do. I really don't.
Start keeping track of draft position. That's for sure. Yeah. They'll also get, they should get Marcus May back. They should get Davis back. So that should help the defense out a little bit, as the defense maybe tired a little bit after as much downs as they played in those first 5 games. All right, let's move on to the mailbag then. Lots of good questions. Thanks for getting them in on Twitter. We'll also keep an eye on the chat and see if anything good comes through there too to throw in. But we're going to start with Notorious Pez, Connor. He says, what happened with Moore? He went from a once-in-a-generation player in camp to barely hearing his name on Sunday. Is it him, Zach, the offensive coordinator, or all of the above?
Yeah, so I've gone back and forth on this, because this is among the more surprising developments of the season. And yeah, Moore missed a game and a half. I think I do think I'll preface it by saying that I do think part of it has to do with the time that he missed in training camp, where he missed that time with the quadriceps injury. And then I think part of it does have to do with the fact that he had no preseason snaps. So the first time he ever really saw live NFL action was week 1 against the Panthers. And I think that probably caused some slowness. And then obviously he had the concussion, which cost him basically a game and a half because he didn't play the second half after he had this concussion on the end around. And then he missed a game as well. But looking at this, what I go back to, and what the Jets are, I'll put it this way. So I personally think, and this is just my opinion, the Jets don't necessarily totally agree with this, although Saleh has started to make reference to this might be the case. When the Jets first drafted Elijah Moore, and you can go back and look at it because we were all writing it, the initial reaction was the Jets drafted Elijah Moore. What does this mean for Jamison Crowder? And the reason why that was the initial point 2 after making point 1 of the Jets just got a playmaker is because the vast majority of Elijah Moore's college snaps were played from the slot. That's what he was. Is he was electric. He was dynamic. They got the ball to him in a million different ways. But if you look at where he lined up on the vast majority of plays, he lined up as a slot receiver. And that's not totally uncommon because he's under 6 feet. He's incredibly elusive. Yes, he can get down the field and stretch the field, but he's best with the ball in space. He's best with using his agility and quickness to separate from defenders and safeties and whoever's there in the middle. And he's so smart that he's able to find the hole in the zone. He's your prototypical, or he has all of the skill sets of your prototypical slot receiver with then the game-changing, game-breaking ability to really take his skill to the next level and take, where most slot receivers just catch the ball, go down like Wes Welker type guys. He has the ability to stretch the field. He can also go deep and things of that nature. So that's why right away, all of us kind of said, oh, does this mean young team, you're just now going to try to flip Jamison Crowder, cut Jamison Crowder, trade Jamison Crowder, and just hand the slot job to Elijah? And Saleh said no, and Douglas said no. When we saw Elijah making the vast majority of his plays, it was during OTAs and minicamp. During OTAs and minicamp, he was lining up as the slot receiver. He was not lining up outside because Jamison Crowder during OTAs was in that contract holdout. And then during minicamp, he had his little acclimation period, so he didn't do any team drills. So the Jets' 3 starting receivers were Keelan Cole outside, Corey Davis outside, and then Elijah Moore in the middle. Once Jamison Crowder got healthy, and you've seen Jamison Crowder's a very good slot receiver, but Jamison Crowder doesn't have any ability to play outside. The same goes for Braxton Berrios. So what the Jets have tried to do here, both when Jamison Crowder isn't on the field, and then also when Jamison Crowder has been on the field, because Crowder missed some time as well, and that's when you saw Berrios play in the slot, is, as Saleh said, they're trying to get their best players on the field at all times. So because Berrios has no ability to play outside, and Crowder has no ability to play outside, and Elijah Moore, the Jets believe, can play outside. What they're trying to do is get their 3 best receivers on the field at most points in time, which means Corey Davis, and that means Elijah Moore, and that means Jamison Crowder. And the way that they have to do that is Elijah Moore outside, Corey Davis outside, Jamison Crowder in the slot. That's how they get their best on the field. In my opinion, that's coming somewhat at the expense of what Elijah Moore is best at. Where I think what we've learned very early on is that the reason why the vast majority of NFL scouts and NFL talent evaluators said, yeah, this kid's a game-changing, game-breaking talent, but he's a slot guy. Like, that's what he did in college. That's what he does best. That's where he's going to fit in the NFL. Not all slot guys can just go outside. This isn't Madden where you can just put him out there. I mean, there's a reason why there are so few sub 6 foot outside receivers. I mean, it's better when you're a bigger body guy, when you have the Denzel Mims mold, when you have the Corey Davis mold. So I think a good portion of this is that, and a good reason why Elijah Moore hasn't taken off, is one part because he's playing a little bit out of position, which, we wrote about before the bye, is that I think he's better as a slot receiver. And if he was playing strictly slot receiver, you'd see his production take off significantly more. That's part one. Part two is that I've been very disappointed in the ways that the Jets have used Elijah Moore. And I'm not talking about the way that he lined up on the field. I'm not talking about, him being an outside receiver. I'm talking about, like, after the Jets drafted him, I remember talking to a couple people around the league, talking to people within the Jets building, talking to Saleh, and just kind of saying, like, man, like, give me like the lowdown on this kid. Like, I've always said this before to you guys a million times. Like, I'm not a scout. Like, when it comes to college tape and college players, like, I'm not a huge college football fan. So I don't watch a ton of college football. So I rely on the scouts that I know that do this. And I rely on Dane Brugler who does this. And I rely on guys who study this in ways that I don't because I'm covering the NFL. And I was like, a lot of people that I've talked to have kind of made reference to like how dynamic this guy once the ball is in his hands. And I was led to believe back then that the Jets were going to use Elijah like the 49ers used Deebo Samuel, where, yeah, he's running plays out of the slot. Yeah, he's running plays outside. But you see Deebo in the backfield. You see Deebo getting the ball on reverses. You see Deebo on jet sweeps. You see him on end arounds. You see Deebo running routes. But also, more than anything, you see the 49ers trying to get Deebo Samuel the ball, period. That it doesn't matter if it's handed to him. It doesn't matter if it's tossed to him. It doesn't matter if it's a screen, a drag, a draw, an actual route, anything like that. They just want the ball in his hands because good things happen when the ball is in his hands. It almost seems like the Jets went in with that idea of we just want to get the ball to Elijah Moore because when the ball is in his hands, magic happens. And that's the case. That is what this guy does. When the ball is in Elijah Moore's hands, magic happens. For some reason, the Jets have gone from let's just get this kid the ball and see what he does to we're using him as an outside receiver. He's going to run patterns that an outside receiver runs. And if he's open, we're going to get him the ball. When was the last time we saw a screen pass to Elijah Moore? We saw one end around where he had the concussion. Where's just the plays designed, the toss? Why isn't he lining up in the backfield? I mean, that what the Jets need to do a better job of after this bye more than anything else with Moore is just get him the ball. Watch Kadarius Toney, the player the Giants drafted, who, obviously I've made fun of a million times. Watch the way that Jason Garrett, of all people, used Kadarius Toney against the Dallas Cowboys. That's how the Jets should be using Elijah Moore. I know Corey Davis is your best receiver. I know Denzel Mims is probably your most athletic, physically imposing receiver. I know they love the speed and the high pointing ability of Keelan Cole. But this offense's best playmaker, the one player in this offense who has the ability to take any ball and just go, any play and just go, that's Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore is the one game-changing, game-breaking player on this roster. I saw him take a 5-yard slant 80 yards to the house in minicamp. I've seen him stretch the field. I've seen him just, again, when the ball is in his hands, good things happen. When you have a player like that, and the Jets haven't had a player like that in quite some time, you want to get him the ball, and once you get him the ball, let him work. They did not do that the first 5 weeks, and they have to do that coming out of the break. So why hasn't he had the production? I think a part of it has to do with him playing outside and not the slot, but also a good part of it has to do with them just not giving him the ball, them trying to pigeonhole him into just, you're an outside receiver, you're going to play outside receiver, and not, this guy's a difference maker. Let's make him make a difference or have him make a difference.
All right. Sorry. Okay, so this next question is from Dan B, and I believe Dan is in the chat a lot, and we've talked a lot about this throughout the season so far, but what would you say are some things you've seen that led to you to believe the Jets are on track in this building process? I guess if you don't believe anything, you could say that too, but.
That's a tough one. I would say that honestly, it's
Dan B has made Connor Hughes speechless. So shout out to Dan B because it takes a lot to do that.
Yes, yeah, really. I mean, they're competing. They are, like, you can tell that. I mean, it's the reason why I have a trouble like answering this question is because like you're just gonna hear the same song and dance that I've said so many times during this losing streak, so many times over the last like 10 years or 10 years, that they've been in this playoff drought. And since I've been on the beat and all this stuff is that like, oh, well, you've acquired all these draft picks. No, well, you have a general manager that people say good things about. And no, you have a coach that people like, and you have a franchise quarterback that the organization believes in. But the fact is like, I've now, if you want to call it devolved, you can call it devolved, but I've gotten to the point where I'm just like, show me now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not buying the song and dance. I'm not sitting here and gonna tell you like, oh, just trust me, just trust the Jets. Because the fact is like, when you haven't made the playoffs in a decade, when you've won 3 games over the last year and a half, when you've struggled in the ways that this team has struggled, you don't deserve the benefit of the doubt. I mean, they have a hell of a lot more misses than they do hits. They have a hell of a lot more complete implosions than they do nice, successful runs. I mean, I'm in the boat now of like, I'm not just going to I've given the Jets the benefit of the doubt before. You know, when they hired Adam Gase and I was like, that's not really the direction I would have gone. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Like, okay, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt. When they made some of the decisions that they made in free agency recently, where they chose not to spend, they chose not to go after Jack Conklin, they chose not to make an additional run at a receiver, they chose not to do this, they chose not to do that. I was like, all right, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. You know, you know more. But the fact is that I keep giving this team the benefit of the doubt, saying like, oh, well, maybe you're right. And they keep being wrong over and over and over again. So why should you feel like happy? I mean, or why should you believe the Jets are headed in the right direction? I'm just going to give you the same song and dance to like, you know, it's the stupid like organizational company line. Like, oh, you have everyone pulling in the right direction. Oh, you have a coach that's motivated people. Oh, you have a young quarterback that can make really impressive throws. Eventually, man, and what I've gotten to in this is like, just freaking show me now. Like, win football games. Like, I get, it's almost like the Joe Judge. Like, I watched some of that Giants game, and like Joe Judge is like, don't worry, we're going to get this right. You know, don't worry, we're going to turn this around. It's like, well, why should people believe you? Because you guys won 5 or 6 games last year. Now you're 1-5 this year. Like, okay, like, yeah, we're headed in the right direction. Look at all the draft picks we have. Look at all the draft picks we've acquired. Well, yeah, you're right. You've acquired a lot of draft picks. You've done a really good job acquiring picks, but draft picks are like this odd anomaly where like they are never worth more than when like they are not used. And then as soon as they're used, like the Jets drafted Mekhi Becton, like as a rookie, right? Like when they drafted him, Mekhi Becton, like the day after the draft, it's like a used car. Like, or a new car that you drive off the lot. Like the Jets drafted Mekhi Becton 11th overall. The day after the draft, they could not get a first round pick for him. Like no one would have traded. It's like, it's weird. Like it's weird with the draft. Like you have this new car. It's like, oh my God, look at this new car. You drive it off the lot and like, it's immediately done. Right? It's weird. So yeah, they've acquired all these draft picks. They have all these draft picks, but like, they don't mean shit unless you hit on them. And if you look at like what the Jets did in their first draft, what Joe Douglas did in his first draft, if he does that over the next 2 years, the Jets aren't suddenly going to be studs. Like Mekhi Becton, there's legitimate questions there. Denzel Mims can't get on the field. Ashton Davis just got back on the field. LaMichael Pirine, Jabari Zuniga, they're guys that are Jabari Zuniga's on the practice squad. And Ashton Davis just got activated, and LaMichael Pirine can't even get active. So he's on the 53, but he can't get active. And James Morgan, a 4th round pick, he's on another roster. So on another roster's practice squad. So if they go through and use all these draft picks on players that turn into that production, the Jets are going to keep being trash. So I don't know, man. I mean, Dan's a Jets fan, so just hope your team eventually turns it around. But I honestly don't have anything to say like, oh, this is why, because all of the things that the Jets are preaching is why it's different this time or why it's going to be turned around. It's all stuff you've seen before. And so it's like, I'm at the point now where it's like, just show me, start winning games, start legitimately competing. Show me a quarterback that like looks like Herbert did or Tua did at times last year, or like really shows like legitimate promise. And I haven't seen that yet. So, I mean, I'm not going to sell you false hope. I'm not going to be the snake oil salesman. You know what I mean? So we'll see.
All right. A lot more questions to get to, but first we have to take a short break.
If you're a loyal listener to Can't Wait, you've heard us talk a lot about Magic Spoon because it's so good. Growing up, cereal was one of the best parts about being a kid, but we had to give it up because we realized it was full of sugar and junk that you shouldn't eat until Magic Spoon came along. There are 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. And it's only 140 calories a serving. It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and low-carb. And you could build your very own custom box. Flavors include cocoa, fruity, frosted, peanut butter, blueberry, cinnamon, cookies and cream, and maple waffle. And yes, cookies and cream and maple waffle are back and they're here to stay. So go to magicspoon.com/wait to grab a custom bundle of cereal and try it today. And be sure to use our promo code WAIT at checkout to save $5 off your order. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/wait and use the code WAIT to save $5 off. Thanks to Magic Spoon for sponsoring this episode.
Look, no one's perfect. Even the best baseball players strike out with the bases loaded. The best golfers sometimes three-putt with the tournament on the line. So if you feel like you come up short in the bedroom sometimes, it's perfectly okay. But if it's bothering you, there are options. Go to GetRoman.com/wait now. With Roman, you get a free online evaluation and ongoing care for ED, all from the comfort and privacy of your home. A U.S. licensed healthcare professional will work with you to find the best treatment plan. If medication is appropriate, it ships to you free with 2-day shipping. The whole process is straightforward and discreet. Getting started is so simple. Just go to GetRoman.com/wait and complete an online visit. Take care of your ED without leaving home. Complete an online visit today to connect with a U.S. licensed healthcare professional and take care of it. So go to GetRoman.com/wait now. You save $15 off your first month. Look, there's a straightforward way to take care of your ED. GetRoman.com/wait. Get started now to save $15 on your first month of treatment. All right, let's get back to the mailbag. I just noticed Elijah Moore's in the chat. Probably not Elijah Moore, but nice of him to check in. All right, Connor, this kind of goes back to what we were just talking about and the draft picks and the need to hit on the draft picks. This one from SK says, do you think Joe Douglas and other management are secretly wanting to tank this year for key pieces to add while developing their young team? Or as a team, is that a counterproductive practice? As a new fan, I'd love to see the progress from a young team, but still get a top 5 pick.
That's a tough ask. No, it's not like, no, the only time you see a team that's going to be interested in, or they're never going to say it publicly, but secretly interested in where they're not necessarily hating the losses is when you're looking to get a quarterback, is when you're looking to draft a quarterback. So the Jets last year, for example, the Jets in 2017, where they were tanking to get Sam in 2018, the Jacksonville Jaguars last year, the Houston Texans to an extent this year, when you don't have a quarterback and you are in contention for a top pick and a potential game-changing quarterback, that's when suddenly those losses don't sting as much after you get through the halfway point. That's when suddenly you've got your eyes not focused on a playoff run or a divisional run or anything like that, but you've got your eyes focused on the NFL draft and trying to get yourself a quarterback. The Jets are not in a position right now where they want that. What they want to see is growth from the number of young players that they have on their roster. They want to see signs that Zach Wilson is the franchise quarterback they envisioned when they made him the number 2 overall pick. They want to see the steps forward. They want to see that they're going in the right direction. They want me to be able to answer the question that we just were asked, that Dan asked, like where he was like, oh, what signs should I know the Jets are in the right direction? I can't give any right now, which is not a great sign because they just look headed for another top 5 pick. Ideally, the Jets this year would have won 6, 7, or 8 games. You know, they would have won. They would have competed in all of them. They would have stolen some games within the division. They would have beaten some teams that maybe slept on them. They would have had Zach Wilson looking like a player that could potentially win Rookie of the Year. You know, that's what they wanted to see, and they wanted to win games. I mean, they had no ill-advised thoughts of like, we're going to be a playoff team or we're going to win a divisional title, but they still wanted to be competitive. They still wanted to be in every single game. They still wanted to see signs that the young quarterback they drafted is in fact going to be a franchise quarterback. That's the goal for this year. Once you draft a quarterback, that becomes this goal. That becomes what this season's all about. So no, it's not secretly hoping they tank. I mean, the teams that the Jets are hoping stink and the Jets are hoping they keep losing are the Panthers because they have their 2nd round pick and the Seahawks because they have their 1st round pick. So those are teams the Jets want to see lose every single week. But after drafting Zach, that's not what they want. That's not what they're looking to do. No.
Okay, we did get a question about when Joe Douglas is going to speak, but because the bye week's so early, you did mention, Connor, that he should speak midway through the season. So when he does that, we will obviously have full coverage on the Can't Wait podcast. But this question is from Frankie J on Twitter. What scenario is more likely outcome? May gets traded by the deadline or the Jets trade for a tight end by the deadline?
See, this is where it's like, it's tough because I don't necessarily know yet. So I know I've seen the rumors, right? I read about the rumors. They were that Marcus May could go for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Marcus May, like something like that. Like I saw a Marcus May for OJ Howard deal. Somebody tweeted me about it. Like that was like a rumor that was circulating, was that the Jets could trade. The Jets could go ahead and trade Marcus May with something else, and they could get, or Marcus May, and they could get OJ Howard, because odds are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not going to re-sign OJ Howard. OJ Howard's a pretty good, talented player, so the Jets could get him in their building, have basically 8 weeks to evaluate him, then decide if they want to extend him or not next year because he's on the final year of his contract. The Marcus May situation became significantly more clouded after that DUI because he's going to get suspended. I mean, it's just the NFL has to complete their evaluation. The legal process has to go through, but he's going to get suspended. It's going to happen. Like, especially because he also didn't report the suspension to the league or to the Jets. So that's adding to the fact that he's definitely going to get suspended. It's just going to happen probably the beginning of last year. So if you're a team, you're going to give up. I mean, the Jets are going to want a significant draft pick. Like, they're going to want something impressive. So, or not like a throwaway, like 6th round or 7th rounder. Like, they're going to want a 4. They're going to want a 5 at least for Marcus May. So if you're another team, again, like I said, all these draft picks are worth so much more before you actually use them. So if you're another team that's looking for Marcus May, are you going to give up a 4th or a 5th round pick for a player that is now coming off an ankle injury, was not playing particularly well before the ankle injury, is kind of limited in that he's really just a free safety. He doesn't have much success or ability to play within the box. He's just like your deep center fielder. You have to pay him after the season. He wants to be paid substantial money after the season, at least what he got on the franchise tag this year. And if you pay him, you know, odds are he's probably going to miss 4 games or so to start next season. I don't see him as a player that really has that much value, despite what Eric Burkhart says, despite what some people might say, like, oh, teams want, like, yeah, I mean, if you're a team, you'll give up like a 7 for Marcus May, because even if you're just getting him as a rental, it's like, all right, well, we gave him a 7th round pick for a guy that's going to immediately check in as a starter, probably be better than what we have right now and help solidify our secondary. But are the Jets really going to pass with, or really going to let Marcus go for a 7 for a 6? No, I think, I mean, at the worst, I could see maybe a 5, at worst, maybe a 4. Like, I think that's what the Jets would want. And I don't know. It's tough. That's a tough one for me to see. The one that honestly I could see more, and I think the Jets could get a little bit more value for him. I think he can contribute a little bit more to a team, and I think a team might be more willing to go out there and get him, is actually Crowder. I think Jamison Crowder is the guy that, if I were the Jets, I would be shopping a little heavier. And if I were another team, I'd be more interested in going and getting him, because Crowder is a very good slot receiver. He's somebody who is a quarterback's best friend. He's somebody who can check in and help another team. And if you're the Jets, trading Crowder would open up that slot position to either play Elijah Moore, who's better in the slot, or a player in Braxton Berrios, who the Jets are just infatuated with and love and believe is one of their best receivers. So the May one, I have trouble seeing it happen. Like, when before the DUI, I could totally say, like, the ankle injury, I don't think would impact it that much. I'm like, yeah, because, you know, he'll get back for the Patriots game. You'll see him still play. He can get the clean bill of health. He'll still pass a physical. He'll be fine. But after the DUI and knowing that the suspension is going to be coming next year, I just don't. I don't know what the point is for the Jets of letting him go, because he's still a leader within the locker room. He's still somebody who helps your defense. You still do need safeties. You're still not a better team without him than you are with him. And for the pick you're going to get, I don't know. I don't think I wouldn't say it's not going to happen, but it is a deal where it's not as cut and dry or as easy as it would be before. And the second part of that question, where someone asked about trading for a tight end, it's like, who are you going to go and get? You know, I don't think Joe Douglas clearly is not somebody who deals away draft picks. It's not what he does. And the Jets defense, or the Jets roster, I should say, doesn't have that many players that are expendable that other teams would want. You would see Jamison Crowder as one. You would say, obviously, Marcus May is one. The Jets are not going to trade Jared Davis. That's clear after what we talked to Robert Saleh earlier this week, where he said, or last week, I should say, before the Jets left for the bye, where he said this guy's going to be a starter and be a starter and playing starter reps once he's ready. I think the Jets tight end's either going to be coming in the draft or in free agency next year. I don't necessarily see it happening during the draft, unless, you know, maybe they do swing that thing for OJ Howard.
The other thing you got to be careful with trading these players away, especially a guy like May, who's a leader, is what it does for that clubhouse, right? And that chemistry. There's a long way to go in this season. Yes. You don't want things to spiral negatively beyond what's already happening on the field at times. All right, next question's from Carl Wilms. What player has surprised you the most this season, good or bad?
Well, the entire secondary. Honestly, I'll go the secondary top to bottom. Bryce Hall, Brandon Eccles, Mike Carter, Javelin Guidry. I mean, this was a secondary that I thought was going to be historically bad. After what I saw throughout the offseason, after what I saw in training camp, this was a cornerback, safety, just secondary as a whole that I thought was just going to be absolutely demolished by teams week in and week out. The quarterbacks were just going to pick at them. And one of the reasons I felt that way was watching those joint practices with the Packers. And I know Aaron Rodgers is unreal. I know that offense is great and spectacular and all that stuff, but it was the way in which Aaron Rodgers beat that secondary. It was, he just slanted the Jets to death. He just quick passed the Jets to death. I mean, it was a quarterback that got rid of the ball before the secondary could get home, or before the pass rush it was a quarterback who got rid of the ball before the pass rush could get home. And there were players just running wide open. And I'm like, man, every team's going to do that once the season starts. Like every single team that plays the Jets is going to do that. And the way that Hall has elevated his play, the way that Eccles has elevated his play, the way that Carter has elevated his play, and Javelin Guidry as well when he's checked in to play outside, inside, nickel, and dime. It's been the most surprising development of players. And part of it, I think, has to do with the style of man coverage that the Jets play. Part of it has to do with coaching. A large part of it has to do also with the Jets pass rush, which has been better than you expected it to be pretty good. And it has been even better than that. But as far as surprises go, by my point, man, it's the secondary. It is the way that they have played and the way that they have performed has been so above expectations. And I mean, forget like even just not being awful. They've been pretty decent. Like I wouldn't say great. I wouldn't say awesome yet, but like they were compared to how bad they were. It is a group that has performed so wildly above expectations that is awesome. I mean, it's a competent, solid, decent group. And I never would have thought that would have been the case after training camp.
Okay, this next question is from Peter Weinstock. Is there a vocal leader on the offense? Seems to be an issue, especially with a rookie QB/OC. Obviously, Mosley is the leader on the defense.
Yeah, they have more. I mean, not even just Mosley. It's John Franklin Myers is a guy who talks a lot. There's Foley Fatukasi is a guy who talks a lot. I mean, there's a number of players on there. Vinny Curry, who's not even playing right now, but is in all the meetings, is somebody that every single defensive player talks about as a leader and somebody that they listen to and think basically a coach now because he's not playing. Offensively, I don't know if necessarily there's that raw vocal guy. I mean, you have Corey Davis, who I think is stepping into that role. You have Zach Wilson, who talks, but I mean, a lot of the guys I think are that will speak up are on actually the offensive line. I mean, Greg Van Roten's more of a vocal guy. George Fant is more of a vocal guy. I mean, there are players there, but I also don't think you necessarily need the like rah screaming, yelling on both sides of the ball. I mean, as long as there's a couple on the team, you're set and fine. I mean, I'm trying to think about like true rah. Like I remember Michael Strahan was like always like a huge emotional, like passionate leader for the Giants. It was never that player on the offensive side of the ball. Like it was kind of more subdued, and that still worked for them, and that was fine. I mean, I know Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes are two quarterbacks that are much more vocal, but you don't necessarily need that because there's plenty of quarterbacks that have immense success that aren't the screaming, yelling guys. You know what I mean? So I don't look at and think of that as an issue. I mean, the Jets have plenty of issues right now. They've got plenty of problems. I don't think the lack of like a superstar stud offensive player who is also screaming and yelling and chanting and fiery and passionate vocally from what you see is this team's issue right now on the offensive side of the ball. I don't.
More questions to come, but first we got to take another break.
Reserve Bar is the online source of premium and luxury spirits, wine, and champagne. Visit reservebar.com to create the perfect home bar or have an ideal gift delivered. It's also where you'll find the best new and hard to find bottles and those celebrity spirits you've been trying to find. Reserve Bar offers the Cocktail Lounge, your online source for inspiring new cocktail recipes and the stories behind your favorite brands. I know I ordered my 2 bottles of wine on Reserve Bar. It was so simple and easy. And Connor just got his as well. He even posted photos of it on his Instagram. I'm hoping he invites me over to share them. We'll see about that. But if you want to try Reserve Bar, visit reservebar.com today and use our promo code WAIT to save $10 off your purchase of $75 or more on spirits, wine, or pre-made cocktails, but only when you use our special offer at reservebar.com with the code WAIT. That's reservebar.com and the code WAIT. This offer expires December 31st, 2021. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Check out betterhelp.com/Jets. The best way to think about therapy is through a bunch of analogies. We get our cars tuned up to prevent bigger issues down the road. You get annual checkups and go to the gym to maintain physical wellness and prevent injury and disease. We do chores regularly to avoid a giant mess of a house. And going to therapy is like all of these. It's routine maintenance for your mental and emotional wellness to prevent bigger issues down the road. Going to therapy doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It means you're investing in yourself to keep your mind healthy. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can start communicating with your therapist in under 48 hours. Why invest in everything else and not your mind? This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Can't Wait listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Jets. That's BETTERHELP.com/Jets.
Love the breaks where we actually get to break, by the way, except for when we need to make Connor do live reads. We will continue to do that. We won't let Connor do these ahead of time.
All right, back to the mail. I was going to say real quick, that reserve bar thing was pretty cool. Super easy, super convenient. Like I just kind of, you go online to the website, you pick the liquor you want and they send it to you. But I will say what I was like stunned is I was like, this will be fun. I'll get like a nice bottle, like bourbon, nice bottle of whiskey. And then I'll get like a bottle of wine for Bree and I, because like we're both big Pinot Noir drinkers and things like that. I didn't realize like this reserve bar thing has like whiskeys on there for thousands of dollars. Like this is not like you're walking into your Joe Canals. Like, I mean, first thing I did was I was like Googled like, or like you do your drop down bar. So I selected like bourbon whiskey, blah, blah, blah. First one I see is like $4,500. I'm like, holy crap. That is, I mean, I'm sure it's not going to be that huge of a bottle. So, I mean, if
they got the good stuff.
40,
Jets fans, you might need it by the end of the season.
I don't even think that. I mean, you're spending $4,500 on whiskey. I mean, I like whiskey as much as the next guy, and I like wine as much as the next guy. But that's absurd. Like, if you're buying that, like, you've got like, there's better things to spend your money on than $4,500 whiskey. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like, I don't care if you're rich and loaded. Like, that's fine. You can be rich and loaded. You can still spend your money on something better than $4,500 whiskey. And that was like, there was some that was even more than that. Like, I'm pretty sure I saw an $8,000 bottle of whiskey. And I was like, my God.
If you use the code WAIT, you get $10 off.
Yeah. All right. So there you go. So $7,990. But then you got to pay tax and shipping.
We should say that not all the bottles of whiskey on Reserve Bar are that price.
I got
and you can go on there and get a great bottle of whiskey for a good price.
And shipped right to your door.
Yeah, and that's what I got. Exactly. So I got Four Roses, which is awesome. Like Four Roses, like a just under $100.
Four Roses is good.
Yeah. So it's like right under $100, which is like, you bring out like you're gonna go impress 90% of your friends when you bring out like an $80 bottle of whiskey. Like that's like a nice thing to get. And then like the bottle of wine I got Bree and I was like a $50 bottle of wine. Like that's a nice bottle of wine. But like, man, imagine being like that guy. Imagine living that life where you're like, yeah, how much is this whiskey? $8,000. Like imagine that, man. That's just the life some people live is. Whew. That's wild. Even if I had like that much money, I can't imagine living that life. I just can't. I can't imagine. If I won the lottery tomorrow, I don't know. We'll see though. Maybe I'll win the lottery tomorrow and I'll be able to tell you guys like how I'll live. I'll be like, that's when you read that read. Like, was Connor gonna let me come over and try the liquor that he got? There you go, Marissa. If I win the lottery, I'll let you come over and try my $8,000 bottle of. I'll fly you and Michael down to try the $8,000 bottle of whiskey.
I don't even think whiskey is gluten-free, so I'll have the wine.
For $8,000, you can still take a sip.
Bourbon. I don't know. That's a good question, as bourbon is mostly corn, right? I don't know. Anyway, back to the mailbag we go. And the next one's from Mike Williams. He says, hey, not saying he's the perfect example, but seeing ex-Jets make plays yesterday, such as the Luvu blocked punt. What is one player you covered while they were on the Jets that you felt like they were too quick to cut bait with? Plenty of options there, Connor.
I got to think about that one. It's funny because like there are a couple, like there's obviously like Brandon Shell is out there starting in Seattle, and you know Justin Burris is a corner who like is random, like he was like a McCagnon cast off. that's kind of gone on to do actually have a decent career for himself.
You could throw
The
Robby
two that
Anderson into the conversation
Robby Anderson
too.
as
I mean,
well.
granted, he was a
Yeah.
free agent, but he was a guy
Yeah,
that
Robby,
wanted to
by the way,
stay.
has been awful this year. Like Robbie's done diddly poo like this season for the Panthers. Like I remember I looked it up. I was like, I think, yeah, he caught 5 passes against the Cowboys, but then like 2 against the Eagles, 3 against the Vikings. Like he has not been good this year. What's his numbers? He's got where are we here? Robby Anderson, 15 catches for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns, and 57 yards, and one of those touchdowns came on 1 catch against the Jets. Other than that, I mean, he's been bad. Like he's on pace for like career lows in virtually everything, despite the fact he's playing all the time. But you could throw him into the mix. I think he's probably one that was given up on a little too early. But I understood why the Jets, like it was explained to me why the Jets gave up on him. And it was that, they thought his market was going to be like $14-15 million. They never thought he would sign for what he did, which, Joe Douglas has said we had to change the way that we view free agencies and change the way that we view that sort. Like we had to evaluate our players as we were off there, because the Jets would have re-signed Robby for what he got. They just didn't want to give him 13-14 million because, he's a player that when he's not the number one target, he tends to zone off on routes, and he runs with a questionable crowd in Florida that they were worried about him getting in trouble and suspensions taking him off the field. But I think 2 that immediately come to mind that the Jets let go that they should not have, because it would have kept things stable for significantly longer, were Andre Roberts and Jason Myers, the kick returner, punt returner who made all pros for the Jets, and then they let walk in free agency and didn't want to pay. They were 2 guys that, if you think about the turnstile at kicker that the Jets have had since they let Myers go, I mean, Myers has developed into a really good kicker, and the Jets' worry was that his season with him was a flash in the pan, and it wasn't. Then you think about the number of the lack of difference makers the Jets have had at punt and kick returner since letting Andre Roberts go. He was, again, a player that wasn't going to cost you too much money, could also fill in at receiver, and could sit there and be a kick returner. So, I'm not going to fault the Jets for trading Leonard Williams, although he's kind of now started to find a home for himself with the Giants. And Sheldon Richardson was another player they traded, and there's been other guys that have come in the room and left. But the 2 that I think that just would have been the one that I'm like, you guys should have just brought him back, and I understood why they didn't, but still, you should have brought him back. Aside from Robby, which is the obvious one, if you want to go for like the 2 less obvious ones, for me, it's Jason Myers and Andre Roberts. Those are 2 players that I think the Jets they should have brought back. They really should have, and I was surprised that they didn't. And the other one too, that was a massive mistake. Now that I can't believe I forgot him. That he had the year with the Jets, and it was an unbelievable year. And in the Jets' opinion, they were like, "Oh well, this is just a flash in the pan year," and it didn't work out. And he's actually developed into not only just a leader, but one of the best players at his position in the NFL is Demario Davis. When the Jets basically trade Calvin Pryor for him, and they get him back in here, and Demario has the year that he did with the Jets, and he was he was dominant. He suddenly could cover. He could suddenly make plays he was a pass rusher. He made plays in the run. He was obviously the leader. I mean, he was a dominant player when he came back to the Jets, and the Jets let him walk, and they replaced him with Avery Williamson, and Demario went to the Saints, and he has become just a dominant, game-changing player. I actually would put him higher on the list than Andre Roberts and Jason Myers. Demario Davis, and then obviously Andre Roberts and Jason Myers. Those guys as a cluster of players that never should have left the building.
All right, Connor, final question. This question comes from Parth on Twitter. Now let's put our draft hats on. If the Jets use both of their first this year, what positions do you see them targeting? I know that's early, but not too early to talk about the draft for the Jets, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to come now. I haven't started draft prep at all. I'll be honest with you. I've been putting it back. My editor was I just had a call with Allison, my editor today, and we were talking about like, all right, look, the Jets are 1-4. What are we doing the rest of the way here? And I was like, I'm focusing on this season as long as we can. I don't want to start going the free agency draft route until we absolutely have to, which we're probably 3 bad losses away from going full focus on the draft. Right now, the positions that I would say, and this is without me knowing who the top players in college football are. This is without me saying like, all right, this is who the Jets could target. The biggest positions of need that I think the Jets still have, I could see cornerback. I could see another offensive lineman, because Morgan Moses might not be back next year. They can move on from George Fant. And if you want to keep building that wall, absolutely. pass rusher, because I'm telling you, you can never rule out as many pass rushers. Look at what the 49ers did, and that's absolutely there. But I would think cornerback, I would think pass rusher. I could see an offensive lineman or the other two, and I don't think there's like a Kyle. From what I did do some reading on this, is I don't think there's like a Kyle Pitts in this year's draft. So I don't think there's a tight end that's going to be worthy of a top 10 pick. I think the Jets will probably go tight end with one of those second rounders, but it also wouldn't surprise me if they went and they got a receiver. And the reasoning, my thought process for that is if there's like with one, not with maybe their first round pick, but one of those 2 first round picks, because that could give you like a legitimate player that you think is going to be a number 1 receiver outside. You then have Corey Davis out opposite him. You then have Elijah Moore in the slot. You have a tight end you can draft in the second round, use another first round pick on that offensive lineman, and suddenly you're in really good shape. I mean, because that would be an offensive line that you have first round pick left tackle, first round pick left guard, a first round pick that you use at either right guard or right tackle, depending on who you end up selecting there. You have Elijah Moore, a second round pick, Corey Davis, a free agent signing, a first round pick, a receiver, and you can have a second round pick, a tight end. And then plus you talk about the running back stable, which the Jets will just, they like Michael Carter, but I don't think they're ever going to invest like a first round pick in a running back or even a second round pick in a running back. Like they'll sign a veteran to pair with Carter and do something like that. So I think that suddenly gives you an offense that people can be afraid of. And then you can focus on what you've got off Bryce Hall and what you've got off Michael Carter. I think those 2 cornerback positions are pretty good. I mean, you can, if there's a dominant, like number 1, no doubt corner that you want to go get, I could see that too. But also I can see the Jets just adding a veteran in free agency and then going safeties and free and building your defense is fine right now. You want to keep working on that offense. And I think adding another offensive lineman, adding a tight end and adding a receiver could do that a lot for this grouping. And you're going to have 3 pretty good picks to start off with the 2 first round picks in the second rounder. So if you go any variation of offensive lineman and receiver, tight end, I think you're in pretty good shape.
All right. Thank you so much for all the great questions. We like doing the mailbag every once in a while. The bye week is always the perfect time. Before we say goodbye, though, play that music that we'll eventually have because Connor's going to talk about golf.
There we go. So I know we got 2 minutes here. So I know, Tim, you said you had a hard out at 10 a.m. So I want to make sure that I get this done.
You can take 4 minutes.
4 minutes. All right. There we go. I don't want Mrs. McMaster and baby McMaster to hate me already. So I played a round of golf on Saturday and I joined this country club, the Cobblestone Creek, which I like so far, but I haven't played with anyone. So I've been trying to like make friends that I can have like golfing friends. So when I play during the week, I can go with them. So for the first time, I did this little selection when I got my tee time of like play with 2 people, and I got paired with a dad and his son, both really, really nice guys. So we're on like the 4th hole. It's a par 5. And the guy that I'm playing with, his son, sliced the ball into like the wooded area on the right. So as a gentleman and a scholar, I was like, I'm going to go help this guy go find his golf ball, right? Like I'm going to go help him get his golf ball. So walk over there because I'm carrying my bag. I'm like, well, as I'm looking for his ball, I'm not going to carry around this bag the whole time. So I take my bag off, put it on the ground, and then keep walking around looking for his ball. After like 2-3 minutes, the guy goes, I'm just going to take a drop the ball, go on and move on with my life. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to give one more lap. So I walk by my bag again and I go to walk past it. And I feel like a thorn or like a sticker, almost like I walked past a sticker bush. But then it goes from like that initial like scraping pain to this searing, horrific, like I just got stabbed pain. Like, I mean, I've been stung by a bumblebee before. I've been stung by like the bee, like the honeybee. Like this was not like that. I told Bree this, like this was literally like I got stabbed. And I'm like, holy crap. So I look down at like my right leg where like I feel the pain and I see this black hornet just going to town on my ankle. I mean, it's not like a bee that stings and run away. This thing's like pow, 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 like just going. So I'm like, holy crap. So I take my hand, I swat it and I get it and it dies. And I'm like, so like I kind of like run away from where I was, like kind of like jog, stumble away. I'm like, holy, like that freaking hurt. Like that. I felt pain. And I'm not somebody who doesn't usually handle pain that well, surprisingly. This was one where I was like, holy crap, like that hurt a lot. So I look at the guy that I'm playing with, the guy whose ball I was trying to find. I'm like, oh man, I was like, you owe me a beer. I just got stung by a bee looking for your ball. And the guy starts laughing. He goes, oh, I got you, man. I got you. And then all of a sudden his face goes like white. Expression drops off. And I'm like, what's wrong? And he points at my bag and he goes, look. And I look at my bag, and I'm not kidding you. When I put my bag down on the ground, I put it on top of a hornet's nest. So it's your fault. Yeah, I slammed my head down. Like basically I went genocide on like this entire like home of hornets. And they all are, I mean, there's 60 of them just swarming the bottom of my bag. And it's just, they're going and going and going. And I'm like, holy hell, what do I do? It was 80 degrees on Saturday. I'm in short sleeves or a short sleeve polo and shorts. And I'm like, I got to get my bag. So my first inclination, like brilliant, scientific Connor guy, is that I was carrying coffee. So I was like, all right, take off the lid of the coffee, throw the coffee at the hornets. They will disperse. And then I can sprint in, grab my bag and sprint out. So that was game plan 1. Threw it in there. Did not work. The hornets don't do anything. If anything, got a little wet, started zooming around and going after it again. I'm like, God damn it. That didn't work. So luckily, to make a longer story a little bit shorter, is that the guy had a quarter zip on. So he goes, here, take my quarter zip. So I took the quarter zip, kind of bumbled it around my neck. And then what I did was I ran into the swarm of hornets, grabbed the top of my bag because most of them were on the bottom. Like there were only 5 or 6 at the top. Grabbed the top of the bag with my 2 hands, sprinted like 5 yards, dropped it, then ran like another 10 yards just to like get away. Then went back, dragged it 5 more yards, then sprinted again, hoping that like the further I got my bag away from the nest, they would go back to their crushed home to like, I assumed like hornets are like bees where they have a queen, like go try to find their queen and save their queen, who I probably like made 2-dimensional. And like, I could just keep taking my bag away. And the method did sort of work. The issue was like the 5 that were swarming around the top followed me. And then I got stung like on the inside of my leg. I got stung like 2 times on my left ankle. I got stung another few times on my right. I mean, I ended up getting, it was about 5 or 6 into like 5 or 6 spots of stings. Like, but then those same spots were hit like 3 or 4 times each because like those bastards don't stop. Like those hornets, they just go like bang, bang, bang. But I will say I separated my club from the clubs from the stuff, and I finished the round of golf. I did end up when I got home, my ankle was like the size of a watermelon, which wasn't great. And obviously I used it to try for sympathy, like points with Bree, like I need to be taken care of now. I'm an injured person. I was attacked by a wild animal, all that stuff. But yeah, that was my golf story from Saturday. Yeah, no, it's still. I'll tell you this though. I prefer I would prefer getting attacked by hornets to that caddy that I experienced in Whistler.
I was going to say the hornets were still nicer to you than the caddy.
Yeah, the hornets were nicer to me than the freaking caddy. Yeah. I'll tell you what though, man, there is no worse feeling than looking over and just seeing the hornets and you're like, there's 60 of them. And I'm like, how am I supposed to get my bag? Like, how am I supposed to get this? Like, how am I supposed to get my bag? And the running in and dragging, but like I'm telling you, man, like bumblebees and like bees, like they sting like it's like a pinch. Like, I don't know if you've ever been stung before. Like it's like a pinch. This was not like a pinch. This was like I got stabbed. Like it was bad. Like it hurt a lot. So I didn't even play well. Like my back, I was actually playing pretty well at that point. On my back nine, I imploded, and it's just a bad day. Bad day. Mistakes were made.
Well, glad you're not allergic. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too, is I had no idea if I was or not. So like the guy goes, "Are you allergic to bee stings?" I was like, I think I was stung once when I was a kid. Like once I got stung by a bee when I was a kid, and that's what I'm saying. It felt like a pinch, and I was fine. I was like, but everything I've heard about bees is that if you get stung by a bee, it can like hit you later on in life. Like you can you can get stung once and be fine, and then like later on you can get. So I've always taken that approach of like I'd rather not get stung because I don't know. Now I got peppered like 15 times by stings, and I'm like, the guy said to me, he goes, "Are you allergic?" I was like, "We're gonna find out if I pass out in the fairway in 5 minutes." I was like, "I got no idea." I was like, "We're gonna find." Apparently, I was fine. Like I said, I finished the round. I told my father-in-law that too. I was like, I got destroyed by hornets. He goes, "Are you allergic?" I was like, "Well, it happened on hole 5, and I'm on hole 12, so I think I'm through the clearing. I think we're good." But yeah, this is what happens. I try to make friends at the country club, and I get attacked by hornets instead. Sweet.
All right. Well, until the next golf story from Connor, we are going to take a break here on the Can't Wait podcast. The season gets going again, of course, after the bye week this weekend. We will set you up and get you ready for the Patriots game coming up later this week on the podcast. Thanks for everybody for watching and listening. You can save 50% off a 1-year subscription to The Athletic. Go to theathletic.com/can't wait. We'll talk to you again later this week. We can't wait.